They didn't love him, they feared him, but more importantly, they needed him. Picture this: Renaissance Italy, a chaotic chessboard of warring city-states, backstabbing alliances, and merciless power struggles. Into this ruthless world steps a man, not with a sword, but with a pen. Niccolò Machiavelli. He wasn't a warrior, yet kings and generals sought his counsel. He wasn't a ruler, yet his words shaped empires. What made him so influential? He understood one fundamental truth. In a world driven by survival, the one who masters perception, influence, and necessity wields the real power. Machiavelli lived through the fall of republics and the rise of tyrants. He observed firsthand how men were elevated, betrayed, and destroyed, not by fate, but by strategy. While others clung to ideals, Machiavelli studied outcomes, and from that brutal laboratory of politics, he drew one conclusion: if you want to be powerful, stop trying to be loved. Start becoming essential. This is the psychology of power, the dark wisdom of a man who understood that respect is born not from affection, but from need. And if you want to thrive in this modern world, where influence is currency and weakness is exploited, you'd be wise to learn the same lesson. Niccolò Machiavelli, the man whose name became an adjective, whose ideas terrified kings and seduced tyrants, was never obsessed with being liked. He understood something most men never do, that the game of power isn't about being accepted, it's about being essential. And in today's world, where people chase approval, validation, and likes on a screen, Machiavelli's mindset is a brutal but necessary antidote. Because whether you're building a business, leading a team, or simply trying to command respect in your personal life, the rules haven't changed. People still follow strength. They still respond to leverage. They still gravitate toward the one they can't afford to lose. So how did Machiavelli master this? How did he become the man that rulers listened to in secret while publicly denouncing his ideas? How did he write a book, The Prince, that's been banned, feared, and studied for centuries? And more importantly, how can you use these principles in your life to build real, undeniable power? Let's break it down. Before we dive in, understand this. What you're about to hear is not motivational fluff. It's not for the faint-hearted. This is about stripping away illusions and seeing power for what it really is: calculated, cold, and controlled. You're going to learn not just how Machiavelli thought, but how he won. Every word from here forward is a tool, and by the end of this, you'll either be sharper or still stuck hoping the world plays fair. This is Valoric. Let's begin. Part 1. Power doesn't ask to be liked. It asks to be needed. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Now on the surface, that sounds cold, harsh, even sociopathic. But Machiavelli wasn't promoting cruelty for its own sake. He was showing us a brutal truth of human nature. People will betray love before they betray necessity. Think about it. How many times have people claimed to support someone until it became inconvenient? How many friendships dissolve the moment someone loses status or usefulness? But when someone needs you, when your presence, your protection, your position makes their survival easier, they'll keep you close. Machiavelli understood this on a national level. He advised rulers to prioritize strength, stability, and competence over popularity. Because crowds are fickle, applause fades. But a man who can create order from chaos, he becomes irreplaceable. Lesson 1. If you want real power, stop seeking approval. Start becoming indispensable. In your career, are you the guy they like to hang with, or the one they can't replace? In your relationships, are you agreeable, or are you the one who sets the frame? Being liked is nice. Being needed is power. Part 2. Power is an illusion backed by fear and function. Machiavelli didn't just study power, he deconstructed it. He saw through the rituals, the crowns, the titles, and found the gears underneath. He realized that rulers didn't stay in power because of divine right. They stayed because they managed fear strategically and delivered results. He wrote, "A wise ruler ought not to keep faith when by doing so, it would be against his interest." Again, brutal, but rooted in how power actually operates, not how we wish it would. Here's the key. Power isn't about having control. It's about creating the perception that you must have control. This is what the best leaders, CEOs, and dominant individuals do. They build an image of calm, certainty, and capability, even when chaos erupts. Machiavelli understood that people don't follow logic. They follow confidence. They follow the one who seems least shaken, least moved, least desperate. So when others panic, you stay composed. When others beg, you negotiate. When others react, you strategize. This creates a psychological gap, a feeling that you operate on a different plane. That gap becomes power. Part 3. How Machiavelli used absence as a weapon. One of the most underused tactics in power dynamics is this: strategic absence. Machiavelli knew that when you're always present, always available, always accessible, people stop valuing you. He saw how leaders who overexposed themselves became targets. Familiarity breeds not only contempt, but complacency. So he advised rulers to sometimes withdraw, to control their image by limiting their presence. In modern terms, stop being everywhere. Stop posting every thought. Stop giving everyone access. Make people wonder where you are, what you're thinking, what you'll do next. Mystery creates value. Value creates leverage. Be the man whose time is a privilege, not a guarantee. In ancient courts, nobles would wait hours, even days, just to catch a glimpse of the ruler. Not because they loved him, but because his time meant access, favor, and power. Today, the same psychology applies. If you're always available, you're subconsciously signaling that your time holds little value. But when you control your availability, when you make your presence selective, you elevate your perceived worth. Think about the CEOs who only take key meetings, or the mentors who respond sparingly. Their absence amplifies their authority. Make people earn your time. Let scarcity do the talking. Because power isn't just in what you say, it's in what you withhold. Because when people don't know when they'll see you again, they pay attention when they do. Part 4. Machiavelli's mindset. Why he never folded. Despite being tortured, exiled, and slandered, Machiavelli never folded. Why? Because his mind was stronger than his situation. He didn't cry over lost titles. He studied. He wrote. He turned exile into insight. That's power. Most people crumble when they lose status. Machiavelli doubled down on his ideas. He used rejection as refinement. This is the key to long-term power. You build it inside first. Power isn't a job. It's not a title. It's not money in the bank. It's the ability to endure, adapt, and influence, regardless of circumstance. Machiavelli's exile gave him the distance to see the political game clearly. He turned his pain into strategy. His isolation became leverage. Ask yourself, when life exiles you, do you collapse or do you create? That's where the real power begins. Part 5. How to become Machiavellian without losing your soul. A lot of people hear Machiavellian and think of manipulation, deception, and cruelty, but they miss the point. Machiavelli wasn't telling people to be evil. He was telling them to stop being naive. He saw that the world is full of ambition, conflict, and betrayal. And if you walk into that with a smile and a hope that everyone plays fair, you'll get destroyed. So what did he advocate? Controlled ruthlessness, strategic morality, power guided by reason. He believed in being good when it's useful, He believed in mercy when it serves order. He believed in loyalty when it's mutual. But he never believed in blind idealism. Here's how you apply this today. Be ethical, but not gullible. Be kind, but not weak. Be open, but not exposed. Protect your interests. Understand your enemies. Reward loyalty. Punish betrayal. Machiavelli understood that humans don't change. That's why his insights are still sharp today. And if you want to survive in business, politics, or personal life, you need a little Machiavelli in your back pocket. Part 6. The Psychology of Obedience. Why people follow strength. One of Machiavelli's most powerful insights was this: people obey not out of love, but out of belief. They obey because they believe you have power, because they believe you can reward or punish, because they believe you know what you're doing. So the question is, how do you build that belief? 1. Competence. Be damn good at what you do. 2. Consistency. Be reliable, predictable in execution. 3. Composure. Never let emotions control you. 4. Certainty. Make decisions fast, adjust later. 5. Control. Never let others dictate your frame. These traits signal leadership. They signal strength. They signal that you're not hoping to be followed, you expect it. And people fall in line. Because they don't want to think. They want to follow the one who's already thought it through. Machiavelli mastered this energy. He advised princes to project power, even when uncertain. Because in psychology, perception becomes reality. If they believe you're in control, you are. Look at Steve Jobs. The man turned a failing company into a global tech empire, not by playing nice, but by being indispensable. He made himself the creative force behind a culture of innovation. His departure was mourned not with sentimentality, but with fear that Apple might never be the same. Then there's Elon Musk. Love him or hate him, Musk made himself unavoidable. SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, he positioned himself at the center of industries shaping the future. He doesn't need you to like him, he needs you to need his innovations. That's why governments listen, why markets react, because he made himself the linchpin. Putin, a different arena, but the same strategy. He doesn't rule by affection, he creates dependency, whether through energy control, military dominance, or psychological games. His power isn't just in his armies, it's in the fear and uncertainty he injects into global affairs. People act not because they support him, but because they have to account for him. Bezos took a simple idea, selling books online, and turned it into the infrastructure for global commerce. Through ruthless efficiency and domination of logistics, he made Amazon not just a retailer, but a necessity. Vendors, buyers, even governments rely on the machine he built. And because of that, he became untouchable. Each of these men reflects a modern Machiavellian truth. You don't need to be loved. You need to be needed. When you become a pillar of innovation, of control, of progress, removal becomes collapse. That's the position of ultimate leverage. These men aren't nice, but they are necessary. They command industries, armies, markets, not because they're loved, but because they're needed. They operate with focus. They understand leverage. They build systems where their absence would cause collapse. That's what Machiavelli meant. Make them need you. If you vanish today, does your circle suffer? Or do they replace you tomorrow? Build skills, build networks, build reputation. So when people think of solving a problem, your name is the only answer. Part 8. The final power move. Silence. Machiavelli didn't talk to prove he was smart. He used silence as a sword. He knew that words reveal, that emotions betray. So he listened, calculated, watched. The man who speaks less learns more. In any negotiation, the quietest man controls the pace. In any room, the man who doesn't rush to fill silence creates tension. That tension? It's influence. Use silence, not as absence, but as presence. This is Valoric. where we go deep into the philosophies that built empires and hardened men. Here, we don't just scratch the surface. We dive into the marrow of history, dissecting the minds and moments that defined entire civilizations. Expect more than just quotes and summaries. Expect an unflinching journey into the mechanics of power, the psychology of dominance, and the philosophies that turned men into monarchs. If you've ever wondered what separates those who bend the world to their will from those who are bent by it, you're in the right place. Get ready. This isn't just a story, it's a strategy. If you're tired of being overlooked, underestimated, or forgotten, it's time to build real, lasting power. Share this with someone who still thinks morality is a strategy, who still thinks being liked is the goal. Subscribe for more timeless strategies from the minds that mastered human nature. Machiavelli wasn't perfect, but he was never powerless. And neither will you be. Stay sharp, stay dangerous. This is Valoric.